Welcome back to the Carson City Candidate Debate. This debate is live on Wednesday evening, May 6th, but you can watch it on demand on the 17 stations, the 17 platforms, I should say, of NGBN TV, Carson City TV Network. That includes Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, as well as on our Facebook page, NGBN Carson City TV, and on the Nevada Appeal Facebook page. The Appeal is our journalistic partner in tonight's debate. We're going to start with the candidates for Warren 2, and I should tell you before we start that candidate Lauren Howell declined our offer to participate. The other candidates have drawn cards for starting positions in the order in which they will appear. And our first candidate this evening is Maurice Mo White. Mr. White, you have 2 minutes for your opening remarks.
Thank you for that introduction, Brent. Thank you to everybody that's watching tonight. Carson City is my home, except for going to high school in Douglas County and trade school in Phoenix. Carson City has been my home. I raised my children here. My 40-year career was mostly as a medium heavy-duty diesel mechanic in both the private and public sectors. I worked in the on and off-road transportation, agrarian, and construction fields. I've also worked as a gardener, a laborer, as an outside salesperson, and in the restaurant industry. I've held positions requiring varying levels of education, training, and responsibility, from entry level to department manager. In my career, I attained the skills to collaborate with all manner of people, to take action and accomplish the goals that the companies I worked for and our community needed. As each agenda item comes forward, I will look to our founders' principles and philosophies to guide my decisions. All of the questions tonight are budget questions. You will hear a single theme from me: health and safety. That should have been the priority in the past, and it will have to be the priority going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Ronnie Hanneman.
Session. When I arrived here, there were none of the big box stores.
Start over.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I understand we've had a technical difficulty, and we are asking you to start over, Ronnie. We'll reset the clock, too.
We'll reset the clock, okay. As a 22-year resident of Carson City, I have seen the city grow and prosper over the years. Everything that you see today was not here about 22 years ago. And people forget, actually, how this city has evolved over the time. There's a lot of complaints about the fact that we haven't had the Kmart building open or the Ormsby House is the way it is. But there are two sides to every story, and I think that is important for people to understand that there are two sides to every story. Little recognition is ever given to all the good things. We've had so much growth. I'm sure many of you remember that the Casino Fandango was once the Supply One, and that we now have 5 new hotels in Carson City. It started with the Marriott. The downtown has been redeveloped and has attracted a lot of new shops and restaurants. Yes, there are a few vacant spaces, but you know, those will be filled up as well. A lot of people don't realize that only 20% of all the landowners in our city pay all of the taxes. And that is important for people to remember. Most of our land here is owned by some form of government or nonprofit or church or school district. Because we're a capital city, we do not have the opportunity to get a lot of taxes. I'm told that I don't have a whole lot of time. It's amazing how fast 2 minutes go. but I wanted you to know that I have been the executive director of Carson City Chamber for 14 years. And having been the person who has developed a lot of leaders in this community through our leadership program, it's now time for me to step up as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our other candidate for Ward 2 Supervisor is Stacy Wilkie McCullough.
I am in my 11th year serving as your elected school board official for District 3. In those 11 years.
Okay, Stacy, we're going to ask you to start over as well. Sorry for the interruption, but we will also restart the clock.
Thank you. Thank you again for having us, Brent, and the NGBN and Nevada Appeal and staff. Little background on me. I am born and raised here, graduated in 1983 from Carson High, the year of Matt Williams, everybody says. I'm in my 11th year on the school board here with District 3. In those 11 years, I have represented Carson City at the state level in leadership roles in the Nevada Association of School Boards and as the National School Board Association for the Pacific region. We've been and also involved in the NIAA as the Region 2 Control Board member and was appointed by the Governor Sandoval on the Council of Family Engagement for the last 4 years. My first career here, coming back to Carson after leaving to go to school, came back to raise my family and worked in the casino industry, worked in marketing, and my last job was the general manager at the now closed Carson Horseshoe Club. I'm now working on my second career with my husband, who has a handyman business here in town. I have 2 daughters and a stepson, all of which went to the Carson City schools. And I have been blessed with a new grandson. So we're just happy to be here and glad to have this forum in these weird times. Thank you.
Thank you. As we start the questions, you should know that the candidates each received the questions by email 24 hours ago, so these will not come as a surprise. And our first question of the evening is directed to Maurice White. Funding for local road work remains a serious problem. Like other municipalities, Carson City basically relies on the gasoline tax for road repairs. In fiscal year 2020, the city had roughly $3 million to spend on road repairs, and estimates show that the need was approximately 5 times that much. So, how would you raise additional revenues for streets and roads in the city, in the state, or at the national level, and how would you go about implementing your idea?
Thank you, Brent. First of all, staff does have an asphalt management plan. They know the issues and they know the work that is needed. The problem is we haven't funded all of the needed work. The only way I know to actually increase revenues for streets is to ask the voters to tax themselves. Canceling frivolous optional projects can shift some funds to needed street maintenance. And I think we need to renegotiate the 1997 NDOT contract for the freeway. That could give us quite a bit of relief. That contract is costing Carson City residents millions and millions of dollars every year. We need relief from this contract. Later this month, staff will present a report on the asset management program. At that point, we will know some baseline information that will help us move forward identifying priorities. We will have to collaborate with every department, every employee, and every resident of Carson City to get to where we are identifying reasonable priorities. Additionally, the growth management plan provides for banking funds that will be used when development triggers facility upgrade thresholds. Generally, I don't like grants, especially federal grants, because of the strings that they come with. But at this time, we will have to work hard to find grants that are within our sensitivities so that we can get our streets into better shape. Thank you.
Thank you. Ronnie Hanneman, you have the same question. How would you raise more money for streets at the local, state, or federal level, and how would you implement that plan?
History, as reported in the Nevada Appeal in a column written by Ann Knowles in 2016. In the election of November 2016, 15 counties were required by law to have a gas tax indexing question put on the ballot. Carson's only ballot question at the time was to allow the supervisors to raise gas taxes up to 3 cents per gallon, equating roughly 60 cents per sale on a 20-gallon tank. The 60 cents would have raised about $10 million over a 10-year period, according to DMV estimates. The ballot measure failed miserably by 66%. Patrick Pitchinger at the time was the transportation manager and was quoted as saying, "The failure of the ballot measure to pass means that there won't be additional revenue for repair of roads for Carson City." He convened what was called traffic at the time and stated the priorities would be to fix our roads would be about $25 million alone, and that is for our worst roads. For those not familiar with what it costs to build 1 mile of roads, think $1 million. That 3% increase would have repaired about 10 miles of our roads or maintained perhaps about 20 miles of our so-so roads. There is concern that because of COVID-19, there will be less tax revenue due to less use of gasoline. Some insurance companies are sending rebates because of less usage. It's really up to the voter and those who wish to see better roads. You can't ask the already burdened property owner for another tax assessment. There must be ways to spread this evenly and fairly, including to those who drive electric vehicles. Roads are a nationwide issue. The answer is not simple. Bottom line, who will pay?
Thank you. Stacy Wilkie McCulloch, how would you raise more money for our roads? We're looking at a still picture of Stacy, and we're trying to get her back live. The term frozen has taken on new meaning since the movie, but we're hoping to get her back before we move on to another question. If we have to move on, we'll come back to include her. I'm going to move on to the second question. So we'll come back to Stacy and we'll give her a shot at 2 questions at once. But we're going to go back to Mo White for this one. The Carson City Board of Supervisors recently approved a tentative fiscal year budget for the year 2021 of approximately $160 million. That is a slight decrease from this year's $176 million budget. And in all reality, the city will likely lose revenue because of the shutdown over the COVID-19 crisis. So, how do you propose cutting the city budget?
Well, it's really pretty simple. As I said in my opening statement, we're going to concentrate on health and safety items that our businesses, our residents, and our visitors expect. With the lag times in reporting, staff is only just now getting real facts about what the revenue shortfall will be. But they have made expert, educated projections out to 2021. The budget will mostly be set when I take office, but this is going to be a series of adjustments. Previously, I asked the mayor to reevaluate the capital improvement projects and stop projects not related to mandatory health and safety items. Subsequently, the Board of Supervisors found about $900,000 in cuts. I asked that the newly approved 11 full-time positions be frozen, as well as the pending wage and benefit increases. Where it's appropriate, the $2.5 million in new vehicle and equipment purchases should be at least postponed. With so much of our budget being in restricted categories, there aren't very many places to find significant budget cuts. The consolidated tax is going to get hit hard, and that is what will drive our budget decisions. While the C tax is only 38% of the general fund, it offers the most opportunities to find savings. The other large revenue source, the property tax, is 33% of the general fund. Hopefully, the property tax doesn't get hit as hard as the C tax will. Thank you.
Ronnie Hanneman, how do you propose to cut the city budget?
Wow, this is a tough question. For every department head wishes their department to remain funded at the highest possible amount, conceding to some small budget cuts. Many capital projects have already been slashed for the forthcoming fiscal year. However, the good news is that most of the past major deferred capital projects have been brought somewhat up to date, the most expensive of which has been to upgrade our sewer plant. Though I am a fiscal conservative in my personal and business life, I do not fully understand governmental accounting, but I will. That's a learning curve. I also am fully aware that these are unique times and we shall not know the full extent of the impact of the closure of Carson's businesses have upon the budget for a few months yet. Budgeting priorities should always take into account the importance of maintaining a solid health and safety budget, for these are what people want most from their government, whether it is testing kits, police presence, clean water, ambulance service, or the like. Budgets are always a work in progress and but a roadmap to where we hope to land. They are meant to be fluid and adjusted as necessary. Thank you.
Back live. Stacy, we're going to start with this second question. How would you cut the city budget?
Well, thank you, Brent. Glad to be back. Just like the school budget we're working with, the two main things are always salaries and capital projects. Those are the two things that make up the biggest of our pie. We still don't know what the deficit is going to end up being. So like the other candidates have said, we're going to have to wait and see. I think that the supervisors have done a good job of getting rid of a lot of the fat to bring it down to where it is, but we won't know what we need to cut until we get there. And like everyone else has said, health and safety is our main issue. We want to make sure that we have the firemen and the policemen and all of our health things intact. As a school board member, we've looked at when we get to these big deficits in the recession, we used to have community meetings where we would have the public come and tell us what their priorities were. And so we would know what we could cut and what couldn't cut and what impact it would have on citizens. So we're just going to have to wait until we find out what's going to go on and try to make the best of it and work together as a board and collaborate and make sure that it's the least financial impact on our citizens.
Stacy, you're still in the hot seat. We're going to go back to our first question, which you did not have the opportunity to answer. How would you bring in additional revenues for our streets?
This is a tricky question, and I think it comes down to we've always had, like any other governmental funds, when you get grants or you go out with federal or state money, they always come with strings. So we're finding out, what that causes. I go back to the same thing with the voters. We need to go back to the vote and have that gas tax passed. It was a 2-to-1 margin, and the same thing happened with the school board bonds. Back in the 90s, we had our first bond and it got completely killed. So what we did for the next bond is we put in a citizens committee. so that when we would get these people involved in the process, they understand it and understand the needs, and they can tell us which direction we need to go now that they've worked on having these transportation zones. So I think it's, as much as we don't want to talk about it, we're probably going to have to go back to the ballot and get a gas tax back on to get our roads back to where they need to be. And it'll still be a long haul, but at least this way, having a citizens committee like a watch guard committee, make sure that we are spending those on the roads that they want to spend them on and where we need to do the most. Thank you.
Thank you. It's time for our third and final question for these candidates now, and we're going to start with Mr. White again. The public health crisis may trigger a recession during your term. What should be the city's priorities?
Well, again, as I said in my opening statement, it's going to be concentrating on the health and safety items. That has to be number one. We get there with the asset management program. The asset management program, by its very nature, encompasses nearly every aspect of our local government. And it won't just identify what the work is that we need to do. The asset management program will help us make fact-based decisions on things such as employee numbers, administrative actions like when to schedule and fund projects, and it will tell us things like when technology upgrades are needed. You know, the list of attributes for this asset management program probably has more items on it than our bad road list. This is something that I have for years advocated for. A ton of work has already been done on this asset management program. I don't want to take credit for the work that has been done, but I want to help get this program fully functional and fully funded. Thank you.
Thank you. Ronnie Henneman, what do you see as the city's priorities given a recession?
Well, my priority, or I think the city's priority, should be that in the future that we will not have a shortage of PPE, test kits, and whatever it takes to make certain we are prepared. There's no doubt that the current health crisis has and will continue to have some long-term effects. We have a lot of people out of work, some of whom will never be rehired, and that is going to take a big bite out of our budget. We've got to curb the spending where we can, which goes back to the last question, or it could go the other way. You know, crystal ball really would be great to have at the moment. One thing, as I said earlier, that we should be prepared for is that we have everything that we need. As stated in my opening remarks, I am daily in touch with all that is Carson City, and I'm seeking your vote to be able to continue to make a difference in this community in which I choose to live. I will base decisions on facts and will collaborate with fellow board members. I believe strongly in government by the people, for the people, of the people. And for you sixth graders, you may have remembered that. We live in a great place. We will weather whatever comes before us. I am Carson proud, and I know that this new board that will be installed in January of 2021 will make the correct decisions for Carson City and its citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacy Wilkie McCulloch, assuming a recession, what are your priorities?
Following in the footsteps of the other two candidates, it would definitely be the health and safety. I think the asset management program that the supervisors have already put in place is going to help soften this blow, even though it's going to be a big blow. But I think we're going to have to really look at looking at, you know, can we keep the library open, or do we need to keep the firemen going? It's going to come down to what is necessary to keep Carson City going and keeping it strong and ready to keep in recovery and get back to where we were before this started.
I thank all three of you candidates for rolling with the punches as we've gotten started this evening. It's now time for your closing remarks, and we're going to stick with the same order. So we start with Maurice White.
Thank you, Brent. I certainly appreciate this opportunity this evening. My perspective comes from a wide range of experiences and responsibilities that will be a valuable addition to our city government. I want to be in a position to help set reasonable priorities that will properly care for our tax money expenditures. I have nothing to gain from asking you to hire me for this job. Being retired, I have the time and inclination to commit to this job. This is all about helping our community with a well-rounded, principled approach to constitutional governing. My years of attending city meetings and participating in the outcome demonstrates my knowledge of city operations and my commitment to our community. I usually know the right questions to ask. In addition to several volunteer and philanthropic efforts, I previously participated in creating the Open Space Master Plan, the Carson River Corridor Master Plan, the Arts and Cultural Master Plan, the Prison Hills Operation Plan, now being made into a master plan, the current Carson City 5-year strategic plan that is now being revised, the BLM Carson District Travel Master Plan. I served on the Airport Authority Board, closing out my term as the treasurer. I ask for your support in this election. I need more than your vote. I need your help. Please reach out to me with any help you might be able to offer at 775-297-6484. Thank you again for the opportunity this evening, and I look forward to representing you as supervisor for Ward 2 here in Carson City. Thank you.
Thank you. Ronnie Hanneman, you have 2 minutes for your closing remarks.
All right, 2 minutes goes really quickly, as I have found. I too want to thank our new TV station and yourself for putting on this conference. It's been great. I'm sure that a lot of people are watching and will get to know us better. I have been around many of Carson City's blocks a number of times, and I know this city very well, and I think I know through my job at the Carson City Chamber of Commerce just what it would take to be a good supervisor. I have served on several of our city committees and have enjoyed that. I know all the people in question, and I too would like to have your vote as supervisor for Ward 2 in the coming months. It's a very strange election period. I do hope everybody opens those envelopes and will put a stroke after my name. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Stacy Wilkie McCulloch.
Thank you. I know that my years on the school board have given me the tools and the skills that are needed in this position, especially during these tough times. I know that if you know me, you know that I am open-minded. I listen to all sides, collaborate well with others. I strive to improve the status quo, and I respect everyone's view, and I am very accessible. I have been through times where we've had to make tough decisions, and when you're on public boards, it's a tough thing to do because you see everyone in the grocery stores and the hardware stores, and they tell you, but it's a good way to get information. I'd like to thank NGBN and Nevada Appeal again, Cassandra Butterfield, and you, Brent, for taking this on, and especially for the staff that's putting this on behind the scenes. This is a tough thing to do in these days and times, and we do appreciate their time and hard work for taking this on in this time to get us to be able to talk to our constituents and tell the differences between us candidates. I hope that you'll vote for me, Stacy Wilkie McCulloch. We're all in this together, and let's stay safe and mail in those ballots. Thank you.
Thank you. We will be right back with our Ward 4 candidates.